सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति। Chapter 6, Middle Path. We covered the topic examine life. Examining life is looking at life in its completeness. Examination means looking at something thoroughly, fully. That is called examining. When you look at life fully, when you look at life thoroughly, when you examine it, what do you see? A few things you understand about life. That is what is known as examine all experiences of life. Again, examine life means examine all your experiences. When you examine all your experiences, you come to certain understanding about life. And that understanding about life is the realistic understanding about life. Without examination, most of the human beings live life without making any examination. Because they are living life without making any examination, they are always a victim of certain, in Sanskrit, it's called dosha, defect. When you examine life, you understand the dosha part of life. What do you understand when you examine life? What is the dosha that you understand? How everything in life is defective. How to translate the Sanskrit word dosha into English, I don't know. Defect. Defect again is not the proper word to say. Something that is inherently, there is something that is inherently in it, which you will not see it or which you will not accept it. That inherently, that which is in it, which is unacceptable to you, is called dosha. In everything, there is something that is unacceptable, inherent, that is part of it. You will not be able to, that which is part of it, you will not be able to understand it, accept it. So you start calling it as dosha, defect. So what does this dosha means? Examine. When you examine, you understand dosha. We have seen this any number of times. The first difficulty is, it's a mixture. Pleasure and pain come in a mixed proportion. That is the first examination. The first understanding that you develop or you should get if you have examined life properly is, the world gives pleasures. All right. No doubt about it. The same thing that gives pleasure gives pain also. So everything is capable of giving you pleasure and pain. You cannot avoid the pain aspect and try to keep the pleasure aspect alone. So the first thing you understand if you examine life is everything is a combination. Everything is a combination of these two. What is the two? Pleasure and pain. For you to enjoy the pleasure, you need a pain. The very pleasure is the preparation for the next round of pain. That's how it goes on cyclically. So the cyclical trap of pleasure and pain is the first understanding you get about life. If you examine life properly, rose and thorn. Why not only rose, and why not only rose and remove the thorn? How it is possible that if you have all the pleasures only and no pain at all? First examining, the first understanding about life tells you that it's a mixture of pleasure and pain. Are you okay till now? No. Pleasure and pain, not from two different objects, not from two different persons. In the same person, there is pleasure and pain. That is examination. Again, I repeat, pleasure and pain doesn't come from two. It's not that one object gives pleasure and another object gives pain. It is not that one person gives pleasure and another person gives pain. The same person gives pleasure and the same person gives pain. The same object gives pleasure and the same object gives pain. When does it give pleasure? When does any object or being gives pleasure? When you are catered to. When does it give pain? When you have to cater. Again, I repeat. Aparna, you understand? That's all it is. As long as you are catered to, it is pleasure. If you have to cater back, it is pain. The same pet is so pleasurable at one point of time and so painful at another point of time, isn't it? The same house is pleasurable at one point of time and painful at another point of time. So on examining life, first thing that you understand is what? It gives pleasure and pain equally. It means anything that you associate with, you should have this understanding. What is understanding? It will give you both. What is both? Pleasure and pain. That's why I go to God, sir. God gives only pleasure and no pain at all, isn't it? Again, the same problem with God also you will have. Why? Because the God should be available to you 24/7 exclusively, no? And if the God is not available to you exclusively, the same God gives pleasure is the same God that gives pain. Therefore, the fundamental nature of life is what? Everything is capable of giving pleasure and pain. Everything in life is capable of giving pleasure and pain equally. This is the first examination. This is the first understanding you get if you examine your experiences. What is life? Life equals experiences. If you have to examine life, you have to examine your experiences. Are you okay till now? The second. What is the second dosha? How much ever you accomplish, how much ever you accumulate, how much ever you have, there is a chronic dissatisfaction. The second dosham is a chronic, it's not only ordinary satisfactions. This dissatisfaction is chronic. The mind is so obsessed, it will not budge, it will not yield, it will not yield, it will not change. This is the second thing. If you understand when you examine your experiences, you will understand this. What is the second thing? Chronic dissatisfaction. So first thing that you understand is what? Pleasure and pain in equal proportion. Second is chronic dissatisfaction. The third one is bondage. Bondage means you become dependent on it. You become so dependent on it, isn't it? Become so dependent. Yesterday, one of the very old person, the person is 82-year-old. That person is saying, I am addicted to mobile now, what to do? 82-year-old person, I am addicted to mobile, what to do? I said, don't worry, at 82 doesn't matter. Get addicted to, what difference does it make? Whether 15 or 82 doesn't make any difference. So what is the third thing that you develop? A bondage. What is the bondage? In their absence, you become miserable. In their presence, constant fight. Ravi, understand, no? This is called, in the presence, there is it's not that happy and all. When two are together, they'll be constantly fighting. Absence, miserable, missing. At least சண்டை போறதுக்காக வீட்டில் ஒரு ஆள் வேணும் சார், isn't it? You need somebody at least to have a fight with. You don't need anybody to fight with. Your own mind will split into 100 parts and it will keep fighting within itself. Why do you need anybody for that? Understanding this, all experiences leaves you with a beautiful understanding. All this examining these experiences will take you to a beautiful understanding. What is understanding? You are as empty and as miserable as ever. Again, I repeat. You are as empty, as miserable as ever. Nothing has changed. And the mind always says, no, there is something there. There is something there. If you examine life, you always look at the utility for you. If you have seen anything and everything, you cannot do anything without for utility for you. Any object you meet, any person you meet, anything that you do in life, the question that you ask is utility for me. As long as it is being useful to you, it is wonderful. The moment it is not useful to you, it becomes a burden. Bharya bibyati tasmin kaye, Bhajagovindam. Bharya bibyati tasmin kaye. Bharya bibyati tasmin kaye means the wife will not say, take my husband away. The wife will say, take the body away. Get rid of that fellow first. Because it has become a burden. Jnate tatve kaha parivaraha. Again, Bhajagovindam. If you want to examine life, you should read Bhajagovindam. The first 5-6 verses of Bhajagovindam is about examining life in its true nature. But then we don't live life in true nature. No, we live life in hallucinations. We live life in our own dreams. Isn't it? Yate tatve kaha parivaraha. Yate tatve kaha parivaraha means the moment your earning capacity goes down, what happens? The moment your capacity to earn goes away, what happens? Nobody in your house also will want a glass. Nobody in your house will give you a glass of water. You will not be even treated as a human being in the first place. The moment that person dies, the person dies, the body is burned, they collect the ashes and few bones will be left behind. You know what is it called? Don't say ashes, sir. We don't call it as ashes and all. A human being is dead. Is burnt. That body is burnt. In those days, like you can't burn so completely. So what happens? A few bones will be, some bones will be left here and there. So they collect those bones and they go and immerse it in the ocean. When they collect the bones and the ashes, you know what is it called? Anybody? Oh, Asti, sir. It means you don't know. If you say Asti, you don't know. It's called flowers. They call it as a flower. When the same human being was alive yesterday, he wasn't called a flower. Yesterday, the human being was have you ever called a living being as a flower? The person is gone. The bones that are picked is called as Pushpa, flowers. So beautiful is the mantra. It's like picking up. Now, I used to think, same person, people were waiting to die. Same fellow people were waiting to die. And today, they go and call it as flowers. Insanity is this human life. If you examine life, you are all very comfortable and happy because you haven't examined life. And congratulate yourself that you haven't examined. Thank God that you haven't examined. Aparna. And if you examine any problem happens out of that, we are not responsible for that. Why? Because you understand you are as empty and as miserable as ever, and nothing has changed. Only entertainment is what? New problem is the only entertainment of a human being. Again and again I repeat, all human beings' entertainment is you know what? A new problem. From one object to another object, one person to another person. What is all this? Moving from one problem to the. So the only entertainment is what? By the time it starts giving you problem, that preparation for the problem is what you call as pleasure. Again, I repeat. Preparation for the problem is what you call as pleasure. Take it or leave it. Why are you making it so pessimistic, sir? We are so depressed already. isn't it? First 15-20 minutes itself is the height of depression. Examining life and all we don't want. We'll go to the next. We'll go to the next topic. Okay. But I'm not going to the next topic. I will examine life for some more time. Once we get suicidal, we will change the Shailesh. சரியா? Once we come to suicidal point, we will drop it and we'll go to the next topic. The food they eat is different. The house they live is different. The clothes they wear is different. The cars they travel is different. Suffering remains the same. That's all. Nothing changes. You go everywhere and you come back. When you come back, you understand nothing has ever changed anywhere. There are people who wants to leave India and go to America for a better future. Every trip I go, there are few people who not relocate, come to India for a better future. There is a whole lot of people here relocating to that part for a better future. There are some who wants to move from there. Even this time also quite a few asked me and they were very serious. And I was so tempted also to say yes. Because I know they will not come and I will have 4 or 5 houses to handle. And I thought it will become a samsar, it will become a hostile person. Then I didn't get into it. Examining life. If you examine life, you will never have this problem. You are having this problem because you haven't examined life. So upon examining life, you understand what you remain as empty and as miserable as ever. This examining life is the very famous mantra in Mundakopanishad. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano, it says. The end portion of section 1. I think it's mantra 11 or mantra 12 of part 2. Section 1, part 2. Mantra 11. 12. Pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano. He says, Pariksha. So this entire discussion is revolving around this word Pariksha. That's what is called examine life. So this entire topic is revolving around that one word, Pariksha lokan, examine life. Examine life. When you examine it, you should be impartial in examining. Then only it is called examination. When you impartially examine life, you understand that it is a combination of pleasure and pain. Second is, it is a chronic dissatisfaction. The third one is bondage. Bondage means the presence is no joy, absence is misery. That's called bondage. The definition of bondage is this: the presence, no joy. Absence, misery. The first few weeks, the first few months, the first few contacts is pleasurable. Please understand, it is not pleasurable. The mind is simply seeing it as new. Anything new, the mind feels there is pleasure in it. Anything new. Have you ever observed, you go, after 4 months, you go to a restaurant and eat. The food will be, how the food will be? Very tasty, isn't it? Even in that restaurant, the next table food will look more tastier than the food that you have ordered, isn't it? Same kitchen, same, all came from the same assembly line only. isn't it? But the food on the next table always looks very, very tasty. Second meal, what happens? Third meal, what happens? The pleasure content decreases and the pain content increases. If you examine life, this is how you live life. There is pleasure in the beginning, and getting into the trap of that immediate pleasure, you invite pain. And the very pain will drive you to search for another pleasure. The very pain will drive you to search for another pleasure. And in that search for another pleasure, what are you doing? In that pain, you search for another pleasure. You follow? When you are searching for another pleasure, what are you actually doing? Preparing for another round of pain. But you don't see it as preparation for another round of pain. It is like in the boxing matches, they take a break in between, no? Why take a break and come again and get knocked? Just finish it off straight away. No, but life is not like that. It's like a break in the boxing ring, isn't it? You take a break, 1 minute break for what? To come back and get. You give 2 blows, you receive 5 blows, you are bleeding, the other person is bleeding, you lose your health, you lose everything, that fellow also loses everything. There is no winner. Everybody loses. There's no winner. This is what is known as examining life. Examining life means examining your experiences. When you examine your experiences, the conclusion that you will come to, the understanding that you will develop is this. It is mixture. It is a chronic dissatisfaction, bondage, and as empty and as miserable as before. But the mind in you will get attached to one, and it will convince you that it is in that one. Again, I repeat, how the mind works is the mind will get attached to one. Something it will get attached to. It doesn't really matter what it gets attached to. Mind will get attached. There are places where people are more attached to their pets than the spouses. You know that? They are so attached to their pets. The pet will come and sleep in between. Isn't it? The pet will come and sleep in between. I'm not saying it's wrong, please. It's right, wrong. I'm not saying it's right, wrong. I'm saying mind can get attached to anything. And then the fight will start. How does the fight will start? In வீட்டில் நாய்க்கு இருக்கிற மரியாதை கூட எனக்கு இல்லை சார். The respect and affection given to the pet also, you don't have. Why? Because as soon as the person comes back from the work, the first question the person will ask is what? If there is a pet, the first question, the whole day the person is working, comes home. The first question the person will ask, what? He will not ask the wife did you eat? He will not ask the kids did you eat. He will ask the first question, what? Is he fed? They say you go and feed. Immediately the answer is you go and feed. Anything the mind can get, attached to anything. If you don't understand the first three, you understand your experiences of life, you will understand this. Anything the mind comes in contact with, it develops attachment. And attachment is of two types. I want it is one kind of attachment. I don't want it is another kind of attachment. Remember this. Attachment always is of two types. Wanting is one. You are so desperate in wanting it. That is one kind of attachment. What is another kind of attachment? You are so desperate in not wanting it, getting rid of it. So mind, anything the mind associates will always have this. It will get attached. And people always think attachment means wanting. No. Understand, attachment means both. You desperately want something. You desperately do not want something. That very desperation is attachment. That very desperation is what is called desperation. Means you have no control on what you are doing. You have no control on your thoughts. You have no control on your words. You have no control on your actions. It means it is called desperation. And the desperation is because of attachment. And attachment is because of what? Attachment is because of what? Ignorance. You have not examined it rightly. If you have examined it rightly, you will not get attached. Where attachment stops, love begins. The problem is attachment is misunderstood as love. It's only an obsession. There's no love at all. Therefore, very important to understand this. What? Examine life. When you examine life like this, you will understand what middle path is the solution for. Again, how middle path is the solution, what middle path is the solution for, you will understand when you examine life in this manner. Then only you can connect it, which is what we wanted to say. Are you okay till now? This is the first topic. Examine life. Now we will move on to the next topic. Action and peace.
Action and peace. The lopsided development of life has resulted in a paradox affecting the entire world. People all over are either active or peaceful. The active are not peaceful, the peaceful are not active. The Western countries are dynamic. As a result, they are productive and prosperous, but they have lost their peace of mind. They suffer from mental agitation and depression, whereas the Eastern countries like India are relatively peaceful, but they lack action, production, prosperity. The problem that the countries face runs through the communities and individuals as well. Even at the individual level, an active person is unable to handle the pressures of life and loses his mental equanimity. Whereas a person living in a village remains content and peaceful in his modest home, but lacks action, production, prosperity. The paradox affects the human race. The solution lies in the development of the intellect. A powerful intellect alone can balance action with peace, render individuals, communities, and countries active externally while maintaining contentment and peace internally. The philosophy of Vedanta helps human beings develop the intellect and achieve this objective. One would then no longer depend on weekends and vacations for rest and peace. The great sage Swami Ramatirtha had pronounced to the world, intense work is rest. You must learn to find peace in action, not from avoiding action. You would then look forward for Monday mornings, not Friday evenings. TGIM, not TGIF.
Survey your predecessors. Next topic.
Survey your predecessors. A Romanian proverb states, the wise learn from the experiences of others, fools from their own. It is therefore in your interest to study, investigate the quality of life led by your predecessors and that of the present generation. Try to learn from their experiences. Follow those that are worth emulating and avoid those that are detrimental to your life. For centuries, human beings have been focusing their attention wholly on gaining intelligence rather than developing their intellect. That has sheared the roots of the human structure, and the mighty titans that humans were have been dwarfed into bonsai. The present generation must take cognizance of the punch in William Wordsworth's observation, what man has made of man when every flower enjoys the air it breathes. Learn from the blunder of your predecessors and let your personality grow into its full stature by developing a powerful intellect. With the fall of the intellect, humans have en bloc turned self-centered. And the society has become unrighteous, immoral, corrupt. Individuals, communities, and nations are all operating with self-centered motives. The accent is on taking, aggrandizing, hoarding at the expense of others. Any individual, community, or nation that is driven by selfish motives perishes. And that built on selfless, humane values flourishes. It is a law of life. The past has been loaded with gross selfishness. The rate continues, which has brought humanity to the brink of extinction.
Yeah. Now what we are studying is that examine life. And so many aids are given to examine life. One aid to examine life is action and peace. The paradox. One aid is action and peace. the very doing something is disturbing. When the very doing is disturbing, causing mental agitations, you have to resort to non-doing. So if when you are doing, there is disturbances, and the very disturbances caused by doing has to be, the only way to stop that is by stop doing. Very simple, isn't it? Doing causes everything, action causes everything, work causes everything. What is the solution? Simply stop doing. Can you avoid doing? That also you cannot avoid. So what you will end up doing? In the name of getting peace, in the name of getting peace and happiness, etc., you will end up doing useless things. Useless things you will end up doing because that is going to give you peace and happiness. Again, I repeat, you have to do something. The very fact that you have to do, the command itself is very agitating, isn't it? That I have to wake up in the morning, and if there is a list that you have to do, the very list itself is very, you don't feel like getting up. You want to turn the other side and continue to sleep. Because the very doing is causing pain. How to motivate yourself into doing? Everybody needs some motivation, no? Everybody needs motivation. What is the motivation? Where do you get the motivation from? That's why they say the motivation is the carrot in the front. They place the carrot. They want the donkey to move. So what they do, they place the carrot in the front, and it will go round and round and round, thinking that it's going to get the carrot. Whole day it will be going in rounds, and the carrot will never be got. So what do you do in order to motivate yourself into action? You need some carrots. And that doesn't give any happiness after a point of time. So you have to drop that and get into doing something which is very different. So action always takes away the peace of mind. And in order to get peace, what do you do? Always understand this. All happiness that you search for, all joys that you try to get from the world is nothing but self-forgetting. Anything that makes you to forget yourself for a while, that's what you call as joy, happiness. You go for a movie, there is a wedding in the movie. I always used to think, imagine your actual wedding is shown on the screen. What you will do? You're able to understand? You go for a movie, there is a wedding scene, and your wedding is also videoed, no? Your wedding is also videoed, everything is there. If that is shown on the screen, what will happen? Oh, correct. You will not want to be there. You will run away from that. Why? Because you are going in there only to. So happiness means that which makes you, that which should help you to Forget yourself. Oh, this person is so wonderful, sir. Why? Because that he or she makes me forget. Forget what? Forget my miseries. Instead of worrying about how to get freedom from the misery, the human being always looks for these kind of solutions. The king in disguise, the king was building a temple. So he went in disguise because he wanted to know there are well-qualified people. He wanted to have someone as the chief. He wanted to keep someone as the chief. Now, how to find out? All are equally qualified. So all are equally qualified, but only one person has to be there on top. No. So the king went in disguise. He wanted to do that. So he went in disguise as a traveler, and they were all sitting and making the temple. He went to the first artist, sculptor, who's making the statues. He went to that person and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Can't you see what I am doing? I am earning my bread and butter. Can't you see what I am doing? It's my bread and butter. That's all." He went to the next sculpture and he asked that person, "What are you doing?" The king of us is a foolish man. He has kept a deadline which is impossible to achieve. Therefore, I am struggling to meet the deadline. The corporate language, isn't it? Struggling to meet the deadline. Some boss sits and keeps a deadline which cannot be met at all. Yeah. He went to the third fellow, and asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm making a temple for God." He said, "I'm making a temple for God." Because he was cheerful, he was whistling, he is dancing, he's making the, oh, beautiful. And that person was made as the head. Obviously, everybody will get jealous about this fellow now. No? What is the difference? What is the difference? All were doing the same action. One person was able to bring in worshipfulness into that. One person was able to bring in worshipfulness into the action. The very quality of the action changed. That is action and peace combined. When you bring in worshipfulness into your action, the very doing is so peaceful. The very doing is so blissful, peaceful. When you don't bring in worshipfulness into action, action becomes a pain, a burden, a suffering, and you will want to escape from that action. And in order to escape from that action, what will you do? You will get into another action, which is useless action. So you will be avoiding the useful action and getting into useless action. Why? Because the first thing in examining life you understand is what? The human being doesn't know how to have this. Intense work is rest. Ramatirtha. Intense work is rest. Intense work is rest. And when you say intense work is rest, what does it mean? It's not a workaholic. That worshipfulness into action makes it so qualitatively different. But we cannot bring in that That's why, remember, one fellow is saying, I'm earning bread and butter, making a deity. All three are making deities. All three are culturing only deities. One person is saying, I'm earning bread and butter. Another person is saying, I have deadlines. Another person is saying, I'm making God's temple. The moment you bring in that attitude, action and peace, which is a paradox, gets resolved. Otherwise, it will always remain as a paradox. Always remaining as a paradox means action will cause pain, and the way to avoid pain is get into action that will make you forget yourself for a while. All entertainment of human being is self-forgetfulness. Again, I repeat, all entertainment of human being is what? Helps you to forget yourself. Anything that helps you to temporarily forget yourself for a while, you'll get addicted to that. Very soon, that will start giving pain. That's why I said you go to a movie, and if your life is shown there, if your photograph is shown there, you will not like it, isn't it? Somebody else is shown, you like it. Why? Because in that you forget yourself. Not only you forget yourself, you vicariously living somebody's life there. That is what entertainment is all about, which is insane. Which is insane it is. A person goes for a movie for what? Temporarily forgetting. A person goes to a temple for what? Person goes to a temple for what? Temporarily forgetting. Goes to a party for what? Temporarily forgetting. That's why when you go there, you come back more hurt. Why? Because somebody reminds you about you there, isn't it? You follow? You go to a party, you will come back hurt. You go to a movie, you will come back hurt. You will go anywhere, you will come back more hurt. But at least Vedanta class, sir, isn't it? At least in Vedanta class, something will happen. This is the worst place to come and this is the worst place to come and to come and sit. After a few weeks break, and if you see the same people coming back and sitting, I'm wondering why are they even coming again? I thought few weeks of get rid of this man, good riddance, I thought, isn't it? At least I would have thought like that. You see the whole lot coming and sitting again, I don't know. Self-forgetting, isn't it? In this class, we are able to forget ourselves for a while. Why does a human being live life like that? Isn't it? See, even alcohol for what? Even when a person takes alcohol for what? Not joy, not happiness. It makes you to forget yourself for a while. A person picks up a cigarette and smokes for what? Whenever there is a problem, the person will pick up a cigarette, isn't it? Nowhere in the world, including that person, knows cigarette smoking is not a solution to the problem. Including that person, everybody knows. But still, why everybody will do it? Going to a temple, nobody's problem has sorted out. And still they go to the temple, isn't it? Coming to Vedanta class, nothing has happened. Still we keep coming. It's the same thing everywhere, isn't it? Why? Something in that makes you to forget yourself for a temporary period of time. All that you need is that temporary break, self-forgetting for a period of time. Deep sleep is so blissful. Why? because you are not at all there. When you are there, it is a misery to whom? From all this analysis, what you should understand, when you are there, you are a misery to whom? To yourself. That's why you want to forget yourself. Are you able to follow? If you are a misery to yourself, that's why you want to forget yourself. If you are a joy to yourself, why will you want to forget yourself? But all of us are a misery to ourselves. And we are so convinced that this is examining life. Survey your predecessors. Connect it. Another end to send the Pushpa. Are you able to understand the connection now? All of us are a misery to ourselves, and we do that to forget ourselves. Nothing has changed. If you examine life, survey your predecessors. People have done the same thing in the past, and you are also doing the same thing now. Because you want to forget yourself, because misery comes from where? From you. Since the misery is coming from you, you can do something and get out of it. That is Vedanta. You can do something to permanently be free of it. That's what in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita he says, you are your own enemy and you are your friend. He says, you are your enemy and you are your friend. As long as you depend on any external factors, the seed for misery is kept alive. The potential for misery is kept alive. The seed for misery is kept alive. It doesn't really matter on whom you depend. Dependency means what? What is dependency? We already discussed it. What is dependency?
Absence is misery. Presence is joy.
Presence is? Absence is misery. Presence is neutralized, fighting. In the presence, they fight. In the absence, they keep sending messages to each other. Isn't it? When they are there, they fight. When they go, they keep message. What is dependency? Dependency is a conviction that your misery can be removed by somebody from outside. That's why it's called mudaha. Are you able to follow? Mudaha, ignorance. What is ignorance? Your inner misery can be removed by somebody from outside. Mudaha. Yeah. Mudaha na moods in artham, isn't it? Mood da, isn't it? I'm not in a good mood. Mood alla seta mudaha maridra, isn't it? Mood, always mood, good mood, bad mood, has mood, alla mood add pandine vango, you will end up in mudaha. Really, that's how it works, huh? Kolattur, sirikadingo. It's so much of this thing I'm so seriously teaching and you are laughing at my teaching. Mudahana in artham, permanent victim of moods in artham, isn't it? Mudahana, when you are a permanent victim of your moods, you are a mudaha. And that being a victim of moods, you genuinely believe somebody from outside is going to take you out. Survey your predecessors. நிறைய பேர் இந்த மாதிரி ட்ரை பண்ணியிருக்கிறாங்க. Nothing has worked for anybody and you continue to do the same thing. But sir, even if they can temporarily give a relief, it is still better, no? No? Are you able to follow? The mind says, even if they give a temporary relief, the temporary relief is still better, no, sir? Huh? Remember boxing ring break. Yeah. The temporary relief is nothing but between 2 rounds of boxing, you take a break. Survey your predecessors, you understand. When you survey them, you will understand. What will you understand when you survey? How they have been trying the same thing and nothing has happened. That's why the Romanian proverb, beautiful proverb it is. The wise learn from the experiences of others, fools from their own. That's why Mudahan சொல்றாங்க. Yeah, that's why they are called Mudaha. Bhagavad Gita, he goes on adding up he goes on adding up prefixes to Mudaha. Pramudaha, Vimudahanla, he keeps adding prefixes to Mudaha. And yet the human being remains Mudaha. Dependency. For centuries, human beings have been doing this. The predecessors have been doing this. Therefore, in your own interest, study, investigate the quality of life led by your predecessors and that of the present generation. Not only you study the past, you also study the present. Try to learn from their experiences. What will you learn from their experiences? One thing that is in common in everybody is what? Dependency. What is dependency? Somebody can make me happy is the dependency. What is ignorance? What is ignorance? Somebody can make you happy. In one generation, if you can find one human being who has understood this, you are lucky to have been born in that generation. You can congratulate yourself that you saw a human being like that, who has understood this. What? The entire conviction is what? The other can make me happy. But then, what have you understood from your own examining experiences? What have you understood? Misery is caused by you. You cause your misery. How do you cause your own misery? By all these factors. The predecessors have done it. The current generation people the current generation human beings are doing it, and yet the human being doesn't learn at all because life is not examined. The experiences is not examined. Life is not examined. As a result of which, the mighty titans have been dwarfed into bonsai. So the comparison that he is giving is the mighty titans being dwarfed into bonsai. Yeah, Ashwatha tree is turned into a bonsai tree. How cruel it is. How sickening it is. Ashwatha tree. You know the Ashwatha tree, no? Banyan tree. Correct? Is it banyan tree? That which has to become so great and so big and so beneficial today has become like waft, like bone size. What man has made of man, when every flower enjoys the air it breathes. No other species goes into depression. The human being doesn't know anything other than depression. And to get into depression, it doesn't really what you have, what you don't have, where you are not there, doesn't make any difference at all. As you are, the mind gets into. Learn from the blunder of your predecessors. What is the blunder? Attachment is the blunder. What is the blunder of the predecessors? Attachment. What is the blunder of the current generation? Attachment. Attachment means constantly begging, constantly asking, constantly taking. Again, I repeat, attachment means constantly begging, constantly asking, constantly taking, and anything that changes causes misery. Anything that changes causes. If you are attached to wealth, what happens? If you are attached to wealth, what happens if you are attached to wealth? Always monitoring the pulse. Inflation, sir. Investments should at least beat inflation, huh? Isn't it? First of all, inflation-nale puri maatendrudhu, isn't it? Adukku mela investment nu onnu irukudhu. Adukku mela investment should beat the inflation. I know what all they talk. Say, with all this talk and with all this, are they happy? No, the insecurity remains. The insecurity remains as ever. Whatsoever you are insecure about, understand you are attached to that. If you are worried about losing wealth, you are attached to wealth. If you are worried about your health, you are attached to your body, physical body. If you are attached to everything, wow. You should prostrate to you, isn't it? You should prostrate to you. That prostration is for what? இந்த மாதிரி இருக்க கூடாதுன்றதுக்கு, isn't it? Prostration. What is a prostration for? Thank God. What is thanking God for? I will never want to live life like. Is that the way to live life? You should live life in such a way that others should want to emulate you living. No. You don't want to live life in appa ivara mari irukudaduppa. What kind of a life is that? Survey your predecessors. That trait continues. What is the trait? The past has been loaded with gross selfishness is the past. What is the past? Gross selfishness is the past. And what is the present? What is the present? The same selfishness. Selfishness is what? What is the definition of selfishness? The definition of selfishness is, how to define selfishness? Anybody? Selflessness is very easy to define. How do you define selfishness? I don't know how to define selfishness. Selflessness is very easy to define. How would you define selfishness? Accent on your own self. Others should be sacrificed for me. That is very close. Torture the others. Sacrifice the others for you. Correct. That is very close to selfishness. Personal benefit. I and me alone. Correct. I and me alone. Selfishness means who's the center of the entire planet? Who's the center? You. Wherever you go, you will be the central point. That is called selfishness. Wherever you go, you will be the central point, isn't it? In a wedding, who should be the central point? You go to a wedding, who should be the central point in the wedding? The couple getting married, no? You go to a funeral, who's the central point in the funeral? Central point in funeral is a fellow who doesn't even know that he is a central point, isn't it? What is selfishness? Even in a wedding, you will want attention. In a funeral also, you will want attention. You go to a wedding, attention should be on you. You go to a funeral, that's why when there is a death, you have to call 2-3 fellows and say, you have to say, isn't it? Take care of the fellows who's coming. And why? Because who's coming? Who's the whole lot that is coming? What is the whole lot that is coming? One whole bunch of selfishness is coming. And when they come, they will demand. They will demand attention. From this, you derive the definition of selfishness. What is selfishness? Attention should be upon you. That is accent on yourself. Attention should be upon you. Anybody who pays attention to you is very. From this you derive. Anybody who pays attention to you is very affectionate. Anybody refuses to pay attention to you becomes very. Somebody doesn't pay attention to you. What will you say about that person? What do you say about that person? People are all very, cold-hearted. No respect, sir. You go to a funeral and you want and if you want respect in a funeral, where you should be. Prita, Shailesh. If you want respect in your funeral, where should you be? அங்க படுத்துட்டா whole attention will come on you. The politician and his wife met with an accident and they died. From the heaven, they were witnessing what is happening. And the politician is telling his wife, if I had known so many people will come to my funeral, I would have been dead long back. Prida, you understand this? You have understood what selfishness is. The politician is telling his wife, if I had known so many people, because suddenly so much of respect, no? Isn't it? National flag is there. People are talking so many good things about this person, where 5 minutes back also not one soul was ready to say any one good word. Now everybody says all the good things, and police is saluting, the army is saluting, all newspapers, all news channels. Immediately the man told his wife, what? இவ்வளவு பேர் என் ஃபியூனரலுக்கு வருவாங்கன்னு தெரிஞ்சிருந்தா I should have been dead long back. That's selfishness, isn't it? What is selfishness now? Constant attention seeking. Constant attention seeking is selfishness. It doesn't matter from whom, it doesn't matter from what, but selfishness means constant seeking attention. And if somebody pays attention, it is called affection. If somebody refuses to pay attention, hatred. Are you okay till now? The same person who paid attention to you at one point of time now got fatigued and stopped paying attention. What will you say? Traitor, sir. Stabbed me at the people stabbed you, or people stabbed me at the back. Traitor. Why? Because all along they have been paying attention to you. Now they stopped paying. Okay. Not only they stopped paying attention to you, attention goes elsewhere. What will happen? What will you do? First is you are paid attention. Then attention is not paid. Intolerable it is. Now that person attention has gone elsewhere. What will happen? Murder, isn't it? Murder. Take the anybody that you meet that day will be murdered, isn't it? Anybody and everybody will be murdered. If you can't murder a human being, what to do? At least break the remote, isn't it? At least the remote can be broken. Something, some relief will be gotten. If nothing is possible, what will you do? That's why I always like to see, when somebody is so angry, don't do all that, please. I always feel immediately you should go and tie the hands and legs of that person and see what they will do. At least you can visualize what will happen, no? Immediately tie there. Don't try, yeah? If anything, I'm not, I'm just saying, time pass, imagine what will happen. The heart will explode. The heart will explode. The brain will explode. Each and every blood vessel will explode. This is selfishness. Survey your predecessors. And survey the predecessors and survey those around you. You understand what selfishness can do, what attachment can do, what attachment can do, what selfishness can do, and then you get out of it. This is the topic. Survey your predecessors. Another way of examining life is what is the next topic, the negative trait, which we will continue next week. So there are various ways of examining life. And this Vedantic knowledge gives us various ways of examining our life. So quite a few we saw, and we'll continue to see a couple more. The next week, we will start with the negative the negative trait. What is the negative trait? Whatever be it. For today, it is survey your predecessors and action and peace. Yes.
You said the example of the person building a temple, three people building a temple. One is doing bread and butter for and other meaning deadline. So that the third person who's doing it to build a temple to God, he also has the same equal deadline. He also will want on bread and butter. So these don't affect him.
Yeah. The question that she's asking is, in the three sculpture story, the third guy is building temple for God. That fellow will also have a deadline. That fellow will also need bread and butter. No, correct?
Yeah.
That fellow also need bread and butter. That fellow also has to finish off with the deadline. Will he not be agitated? No, he will not be agitated. Why? Because the very attitude of the very attitude of divine brought in, the very attitude of worshipfulness changes everything. You follow? I'm pausing to catch breath. Huh? In the case of the first sculpture, who says bread and butter, the very starting of the day itself is painful to that person. Because he is not interested in doing that. He is interested in bread and butter. If somebody comes and says your bread and butter is taken care of, what will that person do? Stop acting. So action is a burden to that first person. Doing is a burden. To the second person also it's a burden. When you bring in worshipfulness into action, when you bring in the prayerful attitude into action, the very prayerful attitude makes the doing so joyful. When you are doing it, you are in bliss doing it. The very joyful doing itself is the reward. You have gotten the reward already. What is the reward? The joy. The joy you have gotten already. Also, because of the joyful doing, the quality of your doing is so different. Because the quality of your doing is so superior, the world will give you with the results accordingly. You're able to follow now? You have derived the joy already. Not only that, because you are doing it so qualitatively, the world will reward you according to the world will reward you. It means what? When you are doing it with a worshipful attitude, you know that everything is taken care of. I need not treat it as I need not take all this as a burden. What is burden? Deadlines is not a burden. Bread and butter is not a burden, because the very action is going to provide me with that. I do not need to work for it. All that I need to do is what? A person making a deity and saying bread and butter. What is the difference? You understand? Deadline. What is the difference? Same person says it's a temple built. The moment the word temple comes in, what does temple mean? What does temple mean? The very concept of I'm building the temple is the selflessness, the divine, the selflessness. Are you able to understand now? Temple doesn't mean the actual structure temple. The concept of temple. He's so happy that he is part of the, he's so happy that he is part of a grand project called temple. And what is temple? What does temple means? A place of selflessness, a place of divine existence. Are you able to follow? When you bring in that attitude into every action of yours, action and peace, which seems to be not coexisting, will happen together. Otherwise, one will be there and the other won't be there. You follow? Therefore, when the third person says, I am building a temple, all three are saying, I am building a temple. You ask the first fellow, what is he doing? Temple. Second fellow, temple. Third fellow, temple. All will say, I am building a temple only. But then the inner attitude of the three is different. The third fellow says, I am part of a grand thing called temple. So the selflessness that he is able to bring makes the difference. Are you able to follow? It is a selflessness that is brought into the action. Divine means selflessness. Divine implies selflessness. Okay?
Does he not see the time, the deadline?
All that will not be a burden. Yes. He will still work according. Only that person will be able to finish it much before. What is it?
He'll be able to
Promise less, deliver more. Promise less, deliver more. I don't know. Some words, some big jargons, they come and tell me. Some big words, they come and say, confusing. Isn't it? Are you able to follow? The quality of output is so wonderful. The quality of output is so wonderful.
fast enough well.
He will not be a burden. The action will not be a burden. Because action not being a burden, the efficiency will automatically increase. When the efficiency automatically increases, the output will be different. You follow? That's how it works. Yes. Yes. In every act, in every stage in your life, you put the attention on the other. Again, I repeat, everything that you do in life, you shift the attention to the other. That's what in every lecture he keeps saying, after you, after you, after you. It's not opening the door. They say open the door and they say after you, isn't it? It's not the literal act. In your personality, you have trained yourself to live life where what matters is the other. And when we say the other, not any one person in specific, that is attachment. Others are that person alone, that is attachment. Other means a general attitude of always thinking about the welfare of the other. Okay.
One last thing. Said attachment is because of ignorance. So selflessness will remove the attachment.
Attachment is because of ignorance. Ignorance of what? Knowledge will take care of it. Attachment is because of ignorance. If ignorance is the problem, knowledge becomes the solution. What is knowledge? Doing selfless action. Again, I repeat. Knowledge means not talking about selfless action. Knowledge means doing selfless action. Today, everybody talks about selfless actions and do selfish actions. So what is knowledge here means? Doing selfless action. With this, we conclude for today and we continue with the negative trait next week.